Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. We're GabNet, and we've got you covered live 5 nights a week. First Tuesday through Friday at 9:30 Eastern, it's The Exchange.
Let's capture you. I mean, who are all these people who are watching these cooking shows? They're stoners, right? So I'm wondering, is this a program that Netflix has absorbed? I don't know, what is the purpose of Netflix making a 14-minute show? Now, aside from those 2 interesting facts about this show, the show is fucking terrible. Do not watch this show. It fucking sucks.
Tuesday through Friday at 10 Eastern, join Alex Bennett on The Ramble.
Say goodbye to the unions.
Renee, what was the decision? And then we'll go to Patrick.
It doesn't matter. Just say goodbye to the unions.
No. But I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you what was in the decision yesterday.
I'm going to look it up.
Okay, let me look it up.
Yeah, he'll go look it up at glennbeck.com.
Tuesday through Friday at midnight, The Intersection.
Most high school boys, what have we got on our mind? Sex and girls and sex and sex and sex.
And booze and drugs.
Yeah, the Asian guys I knew in high school, I'm sure they thought that way, but perhaps they were more disciplined about it. Although there was this Japanese girl in high school that your old friend, the Black Avenger, had the hots for. Oh, my God. Be still my sake wanting to drink self.
If you like sports, we've got that too, with The Arena Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Well, and even if you did that, it doesn't give you the right to grab your Uber driver's private. I mean, and like, what part of that to him sounded like a good idea?
Oh, she played a special song.
Finally, you can get hot and bothered on Connections at 10 p.m. Eastern Monday, and by delay Tuesday through Friday at 1 a.m. Eastern.
Now, of course, you got your Bundy barbecue. We did that here. It's going to be cool. So we have a few of them out of the state of Florida, right? We got Dating Rawlings.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so we can look at that. That'll be fun. So, okay. So, well, I don't want to shoot the whole lot right there. No.
I'm sure Dahmer will come up somewhere.
Dahmer! Oh, yeah. He was fun. A looker, too.
Catch up on all the shows with our Weekend Flashback. All shows have the Citizen Panel, an exclusive concept of GabNet. It's new. It's daring. It's talk like you've never heard it before. Connect to life.
We do have several listeners online tonight who are either dealing with parents who have Alzheimer's or who have dealt with that and are now past the final stage.
Connect to love.
Hey, Dad, that was so creepy that you told Melissa that you had sex in 8 years.
Creepy. I don't know what's
and
wrong
you should.
with
It was
my
like
life.
deer in the headlights. Boink. Like.
Oh my God! No wonder he didn't show up to the parade afterwards. He was embarrassed.
Connect to happiness.
Bumping and bumping, Linda.
Mm-hmm. Dude, you
Holy
really were.
cow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just have to do that.
Yes.
There we go.
Blow it out sometimes.
Yeah. Like a Brazilian blowout was the Cuban blowout going on over here. That's going to put it out there for you people.
Connect with Connections, a nightly feature of GabNet. Join hosts Melissa Fox, Linda Nunez, Porn Star Pete, abetted by Lizzie Say What, and Mr. Punchline as they engage in a lively 2-hour romp that is bound to keep you happy and, yes, connected. Each show tackles a lifestyle or relationship topic relevant to people interested in improving themselves, dealing with the ups and downs of life, and those interested in spicing up their relationships. The gang, along with special guest hosts, share stories and connect the topics with humor to current events in entertainment, politics, culture, and even sports. So get connected, Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern and Tuesday through Friday at 1 a.m. It's Connections, here on GabNet. Talk like you've never heard it before. Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Hey!
Hey everybody, hello, how are you? What's happening? It's the Ramble, and we're here until midnight Eastern time. I don't have to say daylight anymore. And over here, ladies and gentlemen, is
the one and only.
Isn't she lovely? Isn't she beautiful?
For an old fart.
Yeah, moving a little closer to the
How's
microphone.
that?
Yeah, there
Is
you
that better?
go. There you go.
Got all these wires underneath this tape. I'm just moving it away from the wires.
Why? Those wires aren't connected to anything.
No, you had this on the other side of the wires.
And everything has to be neat for you.
Well, it makes life...
Except where your own personal life is concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you can leave, you can leave a mess.
I pretty much clean up after myself.
I do, and I do too.
Sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes?
Let's talk about the little mess next to the bed on the floor.
Wait a minute. Let's talk about that mess next to the bed. What mess is that?
Alex drops his clothes on the floor.
That's right.
We have agreed. And I've agreed to it.
I have done that. I've done that all my life.
I understand that, but when we were first together, you were leaving it on the floor all over the place. So now he does leave it on the floor next to his side of the bed, which is fine with me. I don't have to look at it. But I do show my friends when they come in, this is Alex's side of the bed.
You like to embarrass me.
I do.
You know, you don't have to bring them into the bedroom.
Of course, I have to show them your side of the bed.
Yes, you see, that's the point I'm making. You do everything to embarrass me. You can't say, this is my husband. Isn't he amazing?
This is my husband,
isn't he
this is
amazing?
his side of the bed on the floor.
No, isn't he amazing?
Yes.
Isn't he wonderful?
Look at the sculpture, the soft sculpture that he makes on the floor every day.
What do you mean soft sculpture?
Well, soft.
All right. Okay. All right. Now, what soft sculpture are you talking about? My boogers?
No, I'm talking about the clothes.
Oh, okay. She used to have a big joke about my boogers.
Well, it was like rubber cement. It was spongy on that side of the bed.
No, it wasn't.
It was spongy.
But let's talk about you.
Let's not talk about me.
Let's talk about you and your
please.
ever-growing propensity to ruin the ozone.
Stop it.
Now, I'm not talking about aerosol cans that she likes to blast off everywhere.
It's enough. Alex?
She has some of the most amazing farts that I have ever experienced in my life.
I'm on a medicine.
Oh, is that your excuse?
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
I'm a medicine too.
It is medicine.
No, but
it's a prescription.
Your farts have gotten to the point now. She has this. Let me explain.
I'm going to bed every night. Good night, everyone.
No. Just you stay here and suffer this. If you're going to bring up my side of the bed, I'm going to bring up your farts.
Soft sculpture on the floor.
Let me. And I'm a regular Jackson Pollock that way. I'll have to admit. Anyway,
help me. Somebody call him right now.
No, the lines aren't open yet.
But you better.
No, but here's the thing. Now you see. That I
stop it. Enough.
They are lethal.
Alex, enough.
I mean, a lot of people are wondering why the weather has been so weird this year. It's because of her farting.
That's enough.
Okay. It changes the ecology, dear.
Okay. Honey.
You know, I mean.
It's 10-10.
You know, I used to snore. I don't snore anymore.
Well, because you lost that weight.
Yeah, but I don't snore anymore. Okay?
Once in a while.
And I don't fart that often. You fart more than a guy does.
Well, it's this medicine. Enough.
Then why she got you on the medicine?
I don't want to go into my health issues. Alex, stop it. Enough.
Is it because you can't?
Alex, just stop it.
You can't poop a lot?
Alex, stop it. Enough.
I took an Imodium the other day and I haven't pooped in 2 days now.
Enough.
2.5 days. Well, you're not getting these back.
They're mine.
They're mine now.
No, they're not.
No, you threw them at me. You said, "Here, Alex, these are yours."
Okay, turn it on. Let's start early.
No, we're not going to start early.
I don't love you anymore. So there.
Well, apparently you don't, because otherwise you'd put a cork in it.
Stop it.
No, it's
enough. Enough.
And can you say
no,
just
stop
one thing?
it.
Just one thing. She refuses to admit it when she does it, and she has this spray, this orange spray.
It's orange extract.
Orange extract, and it's ghastly in and of itself.
It smells delicious.
Well, it would smell delicious if every now and then I had to smell it. But I'm sitting there watching television, all of a sudden I hear psst.
Better I don't spray?
Well, sometimes you don't, and you try to see if you can get away with it. Now, we've all done that.
You do it all the time.
Oh, no, I mean, if we fart in an elevator, we're looking at the guy next to us.
Yeah, everybody's looking around.
No, but you're looking at the guy next to you to, like, say, oh, it's probably him, you know. So, anyway, that's
enough. Okay, it's 10:12.
You don't want any more talk about your farting?
No.
Why is that?
Please, Alex.
That's okay.
Come on.
Honey, you should know. You should be proud of your farts.
I don't believe this.
You know, the thing is, can I just say this about farting in general, not your farting?
Farting, actually, according to my doctor, is the air between the shits.
Yeah, well, that was just to make you feel good. But anyway,
it's true.
Anyway, it is a human thing. It's the most human thing probably we do and share with others.
Besides breathe.
Yeah, well, no, you don't want to breathe when someone's farting. But
okay, enough.
It's very natural.
Okay.
So you should embrace the naturalness
10:13.
of it. You should embrace the naturalness.
10:13 and a half.
Yeah.
I'm rolling over.
No, you're not. We're not going to go to the phones yet. You're going to have to suffer this. Now, you want to say anything else about me? Or
no, that's enough.
Huh?
That's
you started it.
I didn't start it.
You started it with by my side of the bed.
Well, it is messy.
Huh?
It's messy.
Yeah, it gets messy. But, you know, I mean, I do most of the cleaning up in the kitchen.
We clean up after ourselves. That's what you do.
No, if I cook dinner for us, you don't say, oh, well, could I do the pan? Could I clean the pan?
When I do dinner for us, I clean the pans. So there.
You don't cook that often.
I cook when I want to cook.
What kind of housewife are you? I should come home and say, darling, I'm home. What's for dinner? And you should then be there in a dress
with an apron.
And you should
heels.
And little Johnny and little Jane should be sitting at the table.
Exactly.
And then you should be serving this gruel you made for dinner.
When Alex was first out of work, after I would come home after doing 9-hour days, he would say to me, "What's for dinner, honey?" What's for dinner?
No, usually here's what we always say.
Well, I pretty much stopped when you went on your diet because I couldn't make my chilies and my stews and my soups.
Yeah, which you make for an army.
Well,
she doesn't just make, you know, a lot of people would make a stew and they'd get out a crock pot and they make the stew and then you eat dinner and you've eaten most of the crock pot.
Well, you know what it is? I was single in Washington, so I would make dinner, I would make soup or stew on a Saturday or Sunday, invite friends, and then I had it for the week to eat. And it's not out of a can, it's fresh. It was fine with me. After doing an entire day, I had fresh food. You don't like to eat at leftovers.
Well, I don't mind leftovers for one day.
Well,
it's leftovers for the next 3 weeks.
No.
You know, I mean, and the pots get smaller. She has these varying sizes and they get smaller as she uses the stuff. Yeah. But I'm going to make a beef bourguignon on Monday.
Well, I'm making vegetable soup right now.
Are you really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Who are we having over to dinner?
Our neighbor.
Is that all?
Yeah.
I thought that big huge pot is for you, me, and I'm probably not going to have much of the vegetable soup.
You're not going to have any of it. I bought you a steak.
Well, and it's not because of the diet, because I could probably
Dwayne and I are going to have roasted vegetable soup.
But, you know, I thought you were going to make chili.
No, because the scheduling got all crazy with the
what?
weekend. The scheduling.
What do you mean?
Well, we were supposed to have brunch with Echo and her husband. That kind of fizzled. And we were supposed to go to Connecticut tomorrow. That kind of fizzled.
Yeah.
So I canceled the chili and the people.
Oh, because one of the reasons I can't eat the chili is not, if you just did chili with meat, I could probably have the chili.
Yeah, but you start out with the beans.
Okay, but even if you did the beans, there'd be a reason I couldn't eat it, not because of the diet, but because of the way my stomach reacts to beans. I get the trots from it. My IBS is exacerbated.
Well, that's why I bought you a steak.
By the beans, yeah.
You can have a steak.
So I'm going to sit there in front of this vegetarian and eat a steak? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Is that rude?
Well, we're doing the same thing for Thanksgiving.
What?
We're going to have a turkey, and our vegetarian friends are bringing over their vegetarian food.
You mean to say, wait a minute, you mean to say that you and I are the only ones that are going to be eating the turkey?
No, Jack's going to eat it.
Well, Jack's going to eat it too.
Yeah.
See, Jack and Natalia, Jack's Jack are fine. And Natalia has decided this year to be why did she decide to be a vegetarian?
You'll ask her.
Yeah, but she's kind of been forcing it on Jack, hasn't she? So whenever he has an opportunity to eat something, I could take him out to lunch.
When you ordered food, what did he have?
He didn't go vegetarian, I don't think.
But what did he have?
I can't remember, but he didn't go vegetarian.
Yeah.
Listen.
So he'll have turkey, and she'll bring some vegetarian stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, essentially, if he doesn't eat a lot of turkey, which he's not, because he doesn't eat a lot. He's an old guy, and he just,
Yeah.
You and I, it's going to be the turkey for you and I.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, somebody else shows up.
Right.
But we couldn't we asked Shecky, but Shecky couldn't come. Mainly because his brother comes to town and buys them dinner at like some, turkey and stuff at a hotel.
Per se.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like
at $200 a head.
At $200 a head, yeah. Oh, no question about it. So, but anyway, and then we have somebody else who's supposed to show up, but they haven't said yes yet.
Who?
April.
Oh, they said no.
Oh, they said no?
She's going to her cousin's.
Really? I thought her cousin died last year.
Stop it. Let's not even talk about it. Please.
Okay. Well, anyway. But I like Thanksgiving.
I love it.
So
it's my favorite holiday.
I would be very happy to just, don't get a huge turkey.
I'm not. But I went enough for my turkey soup.
The thing is, you got to get at least like a 12-pound, because if you get anything less, really, you don't have any meat on the turkey.
Yeah, no, I'll get like an 18-pound.
Yeah, and then you make that. And then,
soup.
More soup?
The turkey soup.
Oh, yeah, the turkey soup that's going to last for 8 weeks. See, that's what you do. You can't just leave it alone,
It's 10:19 if you want to know.
What do you mean it's 10:19?
That's what the time says.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's good. Well, it's actually almost 10:20.
That's right.
Yeah, you got another 10 minutes of suffering like this. So, what do you think about politics?
Oh, it's been a dreadful week. It really has. And you know what's going to happen with all this stuff with Whitaker, and at least some Republicans are coming out against it.
Well, what's really fun? This is really fun. If you're listening, Phil, explain this one. Donald Trump said in the last day in one of those little press conferences.
I never met him. I don't know who he is. He comes from.
I've never met
Whitaker.
They played a Fox interview that he did?
An interview maybe a while ago.
About 2 months ago.
Yeah.
In which he said, I
know him very well.
Whitaker's a great guy. I know him really well. And he's a great guy. And then today he says he doesn't know him at all.
Of course. I'm sure he had to pledge some type of allegiance to him.
Something.
Meanwhile, they didn't even know if acting is even legal.
If acting isn't legal, well, I don't know. Have you seen? I don't know. I was going to make an acting joke.
No,
I can't think of a
acting attorney general is a legal thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, He can do it, but he says he's also not in a rush to find his new attorney general.
Yeah, but you know who the two are on the list?
Oh yeah,
Giuliani and Fatso.
Yeah, there are a couple others too.
Are there?
Yeah. But Fat Fuck and son of Dracula. Boy, he's a really gruesome looking guy now, isn't he? Yeah.
Well, he was never a looker. Let's put it that way. He always had that long comb over for years.
No, yes, he had the comb over, and then he finally did away with it.
Yeah.
He finally let himself be bald. But I think he still wears it long on the sides, doesn't he?
He's so ugly.
He's creepy. He's just creepy. You know. But he... so anyway, I'm having my coffee tonight.
Good.
I cleaned out.
10:22.
I use those things to clean the coffee thing out.
Good.
And
I'm coming
it tastes
over.
much better. No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're
Yes,
not.
I am.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Not yet. So anyway,
I think we're in for a couple of ugly years, and Trump already said it in that hour and a half press conference that he had. He said, "Yeah, let the House just start it. I've got the Senate. We know how to play that game." Did you hear him?
I think he's got a misguided idea of what his power is.
He's got a misguided idea of what is power and democracy, and you know, he thinks the Justice Department works for him.
I'm beginning to think that his entire desire to win the presidency was to avoid prosecution.
I think it was to get back at Obama.
That there was something lingering that only being president would prevent him from happening. In other words, he's got to actually stay president until he dies. Otherwise, the minute he gets out, he's going to be slapped in chains.
I hope so.
You know.
And I hope his kids go to jail too.
Well, I want to see Jared go to jail. He could be somebody's butt boy. He could just be somebody's bitch. Oh man, he would be so terrific in jail. You know. And by the way, do they serve kosher in jail?
Yeah,
they do.
If you want it,
really,
mm-hmm.
Really,
they must by law.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
son of a bitch. And I guess if you're Islamic,
same
halal
way.
is probably just about the same thing as kosher.
Pretty much, yeah.
So anything that's kosher, if you're Islamic and you're halal, you basically that's the equivalent of kosher. They really don't have to change the diet for you.
No.
They're all the same dietary rules. Don't touch the keyboard.
But if you're a vegetarian, they would do that too.
Huh? Really?
Yeah.
Oh boy, God. I don't know. Would you want to be a vegetarian? Will you stop it? Just stop it.
I'm just coming over and
Just stop it. Just stop it.
I want everyone to call in because at 10:31 I'm going to bed.
You know what I'm going to do?
What?
I'm going to go to the phones now.
Okay.
So I can get rid of you.
Great.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
wait a minute. Just come on over here.
Come on
Yeah.
over. There's a lot to talk about.
What?
There's a lot to talk about.
No,
Can you move this?
What?
You always tell me to talk into the mic, and you.
Well, I didn't say I was going to turn the mic in your direction.
Move over.
Okay. All right. See that? Okay. Now I open up the phones. All right.
Please call.
I'll open up the phones so that people can call. You know. You should. But anyway.
See my shirt.
What are you showing your tits?
No, I'm
what are
showing
you
my
doing?
shirt.
What are you doing? You're not even in the frame.
Love Your Lake. That's from Lake Champlain.
Just come over more this way. Rub noses. Oh boy.
Life is grand.
Yeah. So anyway,
You see my muscles?
what? You want to see mine? See mine?
Look at this.
See mine? Look at mine. Look at mine. Look at mine. Look at mine. Look at that.
Look at what? Yeah, you're getting a little.
Yeah. She always, the problem is I work out maybe 4 days a week.
You do good.
Yeah, but
Did you open it up?
I don't like to tell her what I do and don't do because she's going to, it's open. Nobody's calling it. Because nobody listens to the first half hour of the show. That's why I don't go to the phones. I don't like working out and having you comment on it. She keeps telling me, well, you should really be doing this instead of that. And I'm going, I'm not exercising for the same reason you are. Okay, well, here comes
Phil Meyer.
Here comes the filibuster.
Hey,
Yes.
you posed a question for me, but we just found out that you're full of shit. You haven't crapped in 2 days, so how are you going to make fun of Marjorie if you're sporting a load like that?
Thank you.
Yeah, but I'm not farting. Okay.
You will be.
No, well, I had some stomach problems the other night, and so I took a little Imodium.
You know what? He ate chicken skin.
No, I didn't eat chicken skin.
You did.
That wasn't
You
it.
ate
That wasn't
chicken
it. You
skin.
know what it was?
What?
It was the ribs. The ribs are very spicy. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't have spicy anymore. If I have spicy, it's all over. I haven't had acid reflux in a long time because I stopped eating spicy foods.
I haven't had it since I had the wrap
Oh,
around my esophagus. I haven't. It's been 4 years since I've had an acid reflux.
I just take a pill every night.
I don't take anything. I gave you all my Tums.
Yeah, I don't think the pill is doing you justice. It's only masking the problem.
No, no, that's not true. That's not true. It actually stops the acid reflux.
Yeah.
I mean, acid. Most people are pretty prone to acid reflux as they get older, and so you take things like what was the thing? What was it? Prilosec.
Yeah, I've done that.
Or you take an antacid and whatever before you go to sleep, and I don't get acid reflux at all.
Oh, when I did, I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I'd have to run to the toilet. You think that you're going to throw up. It's an awful feeling.
If you get acid reflux a lot, you got to worry about
Barrett's.
About esophageal cancer.
It's the number one cause.
That's Barrett's.
Which is why I had that
Barrett
rap.
syndrome. Yeah.
Hello,
Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hello, how are you?
It's Rob. Oh, and he's got his microphone sounds good tonight. And we never see him in the studio anymore because I think it's been turned into like a storeroom or something like that.
It's a planter.
Yeah. As soon as Rob came on, your camera became really clear, much clearer than it was.
Whose camera?
Alex's.
No, what it is, and it happens here too. As more people, when a first person is on, it's a little blurry, and sometimes you're not in sync. And then when the second person calls, you get in sync.
Yeah.
Now, who did I hear was Sprint? They filed charges, I think, against Sprint because they've been throttling people's bandwidth.
Really?
Really?
When they use Skype.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, you put out a challenge earlier. If Phil is listening, so we can talk about it later. I have my hat ready.
Well, go get me my communist hat. I'll wear that.
You got 2 legs.
Or your Obama shirt.
Yeah. What?
I only have one thing to say. I can't remember things from one moment to the next. And Trump is older than me. So I give him the benefit of the doubt. If he says he didn't know the guy, he didn't know the guy.
All right.
You buy that.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
All right. No, it was an earlier challenge.
But I'll tell you about getting older and losing your memory. I've kept worrying about it lately because I have a hard time remembering names. And the other day, I'm having one of my long, elongated phone calls with my friend Shecky, who really, I have to say, for sheer memory of films and movies and who was in them and so on, he's gotten to the point now where he goes, I can't remember the name of that actor.
Yeah, well, it's amazing how you pull shit out of your tuchus when it comes to a movie or an actor.
Yeah, but you know
who does is Bubbles.
Bubbles is good at it.
He's amazing.
Well, I said I was going to hire Bubbles just to stay with me and be my memory. But the thing is that
he'll probably take you up on it.
My remembering of stuff. All of a sudden, we lost a lot of people. What happened to our... There must be something wrong with the video somewhere because we just lost a whole bunch of people. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what the problem is. where was I? Oh, so
you're talking about
so anyway,
memory and
Shecky. I mean, Shecky has a great memory for movies and films and who was in them and when they were in them and so on. And yet the other day I said, "What's that actor's name?" "Oh, I can't remember now." And I went, "Oh, good, you're finally getting it too."
I had a friend that the way he kept from getting beat up, he went to Erasmus Hall High School in Brooklyn. And Erasmus was pretty tough, and he was a white Jewish kid in Brooklyn in the 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
So they used to call him the record man. And they'd say, "Okay, Barry, what's the name? What's the flip side of this record and the label?" And he knew it.
I could do that. I could do that.
He used to be able to do that.
Yeah, he knew the time of the record, and that would keep him from getting beat up.
And the intro. I used to know the intro to the record.
Well, you could have gone to Erasmus and stayed without scars.
Well, I mean,
I still remember some, but not like I always used to.
I always used to remember flip sides and things like that, and then albums came along.
Yeah,
and it kind of became a hello, Jeff. That became kind of an old deal for me.
Yeah,
so
kept him alive.
Huh? Yeah,
it kept him alive.
I can imagine it kept him
who alive?
My friend Barry, the record man.
Yeah, but anyway, so I just find that as I get older, I have a hard time just remembering. And here's the deal. You say I do remember stuff and that I'm very good at remembering things and so on.
You are.
But the thing is,
I think you are.
If I'm not being pressured, I can come up with the names like that.
It's like that
but
for
if all
everybody.
of a sudden you say
everybody's like that.
Yeah, but if I'm then suddenly pressured, boom, I'm just, I'm stuck.
Or I can have a
Everybody's
conversation
like
where
that.
I know what the person looks like. I can't remember the name. I mean, I could see the face.
Yeah.
I used to create a game because there are certain styles of faces that different people have. And so just like a police sketch artist, you can overlay certain things and look at different styles of faces. And I have certain faces that I associate with certain names. Pauls look one way to me. And so when I look at somebody, I can remember if it's a Paul. And I do that with customers so that I can remember their names.
Right.
That's my big problem. I don't remember customers' names unless I've dealt with them multiple times. A lot of times I don't even remember the last meeting I had with them.
Yeah, that's why I make these things called customer contact cards, and I keep track of things that are important to them because, and it's not a negative manipulation. It's people. Like to know that you care and you remember them, and it makes the rest of the interaction much easier when you do.
I agree with you. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
What was your name again?
Terrible at it. But yeah, that's my problem.
Boy, all of a sudden I'm not getting the video on Safari.
I'm going to say good night, guys.
I'll look.
Good night.
Isn't that gross?
Yeah. Safari is like all screwed up tonight. Yeah, I don't understand it. Oh well. Anyway, either that or there's something wrong with YouTube.
Before your show started, I watched 3 episodes of Below the Deck. I don't know what it is about that show, but you just keep watching.
Below Deck, Meridian,
Mediterranean.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's 2 of them.
Yeah, I watched that show too. I don't know why.
I don't either.
I can't figure it out. So.
And you know what else is a good show? The Kidding with Jim Carrey. I've been watching that. I like it a lot. And Ray Donovan has come back.
Yeah.
Pretty good show.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
My wife watched the last season. I watched the first 3 episodes and I turned it off. The last season of House of Cards.
Oh, I haven't.
It's
I've never
brutal.
Watched it.
It's brutal. I loved the show, but this last season, since Kevin Spacey, was
taken off.
Yeah, and the thing was, you could tell it was hastily rewritten because they were in production when they realized that this whole thing blew up. So they canceled production. They rewrote it quickly, and they it just was terrible. And I love that.
Replace him with?
They didn't. They killed him.
Oh.
Yeah.
If they would have replaced him, it would have been better. Because at least, you know, all right, we realize it's a different actor, but the last season of the show was just forced, and it was terrible, and it got horrible reviews too. Because I wanted to read about it after I watched the first 3 episodes, because I wasn't going to invest in any more time in it, and I wanted to know how it ended.
Yeah.
So I read reviews where they gave the ending. I won't say it here because people may want to watch it, but it was just exactly what I thought of it is what most of the reviewers said. It was forced. It was terrible.
When they kill off the character, don't you get they did the same thing with Roseanne. Okay. Yeah. When they kill off the character, don't you get the idea that they hate the fucker and they're trying to give the finger to them?
Oh, absolutely! Just the way, you know, they were nebulous in the way he died, and they didn't, you know, the way they didn't explain it right away. They let you kind of wonder, and you get that feeling that they're doing like this. Fuck you.
I was still pissed when they changed Darren's.
Well, the thing is,
Bewitched.
Yeah, but they just did that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they had to. I think the guy was sick.
Yeah, on soap operas, what they used to do is they used to say, the part of so-and-so from here on in will be played by so-and-so, and then they would go into the soap opera.
Yeah. That's why they do it on stage, you know. And of course, you go to a play.
The best thing they ever came up with was the way to change Doctor Who's. Was they killed off the Doctor, and then he regenerated into the new Doctor. You know,
they could have had Frank Underwood regenerated into the new Frank Underwood. That would have been cool. It would have been better than the ending that they had.
Well, you know, part of what bothers me is, what were they worried about if Kevin Spacey kept doing the part?
Well, people dropping subscriptions to Netflix.
Well, when you've got 120 million people subscribing to Netflix, I think the amount of people that would stop, you know.
I think it's just pressure. It's, you know, the pressure to act.
But I just, you know, like, for instance, it's interesting that a guy who has managed to survive that Me Too thing, James Franco. He still remained on the deuce this year, and he's in this new movie that's going to be on Netflix that the Coen brothers did.
Did he apologize?
I don't know what he did. You know,
I think he just said he didn't do it and moved on.
Basically, yeah. Also, you know something. There's something to be said for the fact that it could be that Franco's a nice guy. You know, and that nobody hates him particularly, and so therefore they weren't out to get him. But Spacey was hated. He was just disliked intensely. And so nobody's going to come to your defense. Who was that senator, that congressman we had here?
Weiner.
Wasn't liked.
Well, he wasn't liked politically, and so nobody was out to defend him. What? I liked him too.
Do you remember the guy when he was getting bagels and some guy got in his face? That was classic.
What was this?
Weiner was in New York, and some guy was in a bagel place. And
I remember he got in his face. It's in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, the movie. That's where I saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, is that okay? I thought I saw it in the news, but maybe it was.
Yeah. You know, Weiner. I always felt sorry for Weiner from the standpoint that, okay, so you fuck up, all right? And now you're on your comeback, and everybody's going, well, you know, he was a pretty good, you know, he was pretty good in Congress, and
yeah, he had a shot.
Yeah, we liked him, you know, he was okay, and you know, he then runs for mayor, and it's actually looking good for him, right? You know. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he shows his wiener again on Twitter. What is with him? You know,
he's got a sickness.
That is just, it's a sickness, but it's also pure stupidity. I mean, you know.
It's funny because people thought that Anthony Weiner, it seems in retrospect, people thought that Andrew Weiner was a turd in 2011. But in 2017 and 2018, in lieu of you-know-who, he seems more like a booger in comparison to the piece of shit we have now.
Andrew Weiner?
Anthony Weiner. I'm
Anthony
sorry.
Weiner.
I fucked up with the name, so what?
Yeah, well, no.
Nevertheless.
I just didn't sound
Nevertheless,
right
you
to
see
me.
my point.
Yeah.
What once was perceived as a piece of shit now is, well, I know you don't. You're so far up his ass.
He's still considered pretty much a piece of shit. He couldn't get elected to go get coffee for people. You know, I mean, he's
Weiner. You're talking about Weiner.
Weiner.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that anymore. Give it a few more years, especially if Trump gets reelected in a nightmare scenario. The collective amnesia of the American public. Never underestimate that.
It's going to be a long road for Trump to get reelected after what's come out today with that very liberal newspaper, the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Owned by Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They came out with
Raging liberal that
in
he
case
is.
you don't know, folks, they came out with the story that the government is about ready to come out with the charges that Trump was intimately involved in the payoff to Sharon McDougal.
Both of them, not just Sharon McDougal.
Both of them too.
Also,
yes,
yeah.
And that they have proof of it, and I think it.
Who's the other, Stormy Daniels? Or?
Well, one of the people who probably blew the whistle on him, of course, was his former lawyer Cohn, but then there was the guy who's the head of the National Enquirer, who fell out of love with Trump and is now turning tail on him too. And he's the guy that bought off McDougal. And they say, according to the Wall Street Journal, that they have the goods on Trump.
Right.
Now, this is not a story that would normally appear in the Wall Street Journal because they're Trump people. Okay?
Right. You know, Phil, I'll tend to.
First time I've seen Phil go into
regardless.
First time wait a minute, hold on a second. First time I've seen Phil go into radio silence. Go ahead.
Well, no,
I hadn't heard the story.
Yeah.
Well, I bet if you're faced with it, you'll still disbelieve it I got
it right here. Let me read it to you. Let me read it to you. Let me read it to you so you can know.
I believe it. Okay.
Okay.
Let me say this.
Federal prosecutors
I believe it. Yeah. It's just that I don't care.
I see.
That's a tall order,
Hold on a second. Federal prosecutors have gathered evidence that Donald Trump was directly involved in the setting up of hush payments to women alleging they had affairs with Trump. The Journal's story is behind a paywall. That means you have to pay to get the story. Behind the paywall, but has been picked up by other media, including the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. WSJ reports that Trump met with David Pecker, CEO of the National Enquirer, yes, a real name, publisher of American Media Incorporated, in Trump Tower on August 2015, at which time Pecker offered to use his National Enquirer tabloid to buy the silence of women if they tried to publicize alleged sexual encounters with Trump. Less than a year later, Mr. Trump asked Pecker to quash the story, and former Playboy model who said she had an affair with him. Mr. Pecker's company soon paid $150,000, it's called catch and release, to the model, Karen McDougal, to keep her from speaking publicly about it, and then never ran the story. Okay.
I thought she only got half the money.
Well, maybe she only wanted.
Doesn't even matter.
Doesn't matter.
David Pecker and Anthony.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The report adds the Trump Tower meeting and its aftermath are among several previously unreported instances in which Mr. Trump intervened directly to suppress stories about his alleged sexual encounters with women. According to interviews with 36 people who have direct knowledge of the events or have been briefed on them, as well as court papers, corporate records, and other documents. Taken together, the accounts refute a 2-year pattern of denials by Mr. Trump, his legal team, and his advisors that he was involved in the payoffs to Ms. McDougal and a former adult film star. It's funny, they say a former adult film star. They don't say who it is.
Now she's a stripper.
She always was. They also raised the possibility that the president of the United States violated federal campaign finance laws. That's what the problem is here.
So
the Wall Street Journal found that Mr. Trump was involved in or briefed on nearly every step of the agreements. He directed deals in phone calls, meetings, and his self-described fixer, Michael Cohen, and others. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan has gathered evidence of Mr. Trump's participation in the transactions.
All right. So, but they can't do anything until he's out of office.
No, yes, they can.
But he won't get reelected.
Oh, yes, they can. Sure. They can charge him with it, and what that does is that allows them to give an impeachment, and then it gets tried in the Senate. That's how a president gets tried. Okay,
they should wait until 2020 to do that.
Well, I think the minute 2020 comes and he's not in office any longer, the handcuffs will be on him.
All right, that's even better. But if he's still in office, they should wait until 2020, say May or June. The Democrats should. Yeah. That way, the senators, most of them Republican, of course, will show their hand, and it'll be an election issue.
Yeah.
As well.
I think you guys are dreaming. The guy's going to get reelected. And, we're going to see the Democrats implode and do nothing for the next 2 years with Congress.
Well, Phil, I'll switch it around. You dream,
I could see a civil war brewing over the Speaker of the House.
No, you mean Pelosi?
I agree to an extent with you, Phil. I see, yes, and that a civil war, because I will call my Congressman Conor Lamb and tell him I do not want you supporting Nancy Pelosi. And they say somebody who calls their elected official, they take that more seriously than if you just write them a letter or something, because they assume that you've already told 1,000 other people, or that you've told 2 people who've then told 4 people who've then told 8 people, and so on and so forth. That's why I'm told they take phone calls like that with more than a grain of salt.
Yeah, and then they start watching you.
I'll let them.
That's the Trump government. They start watching you.
No. It's always been that way. It doesn't matter who the president was.
That's bipartisan, Rob.
Yeah. They go after people's taxes.
On that.
Even Obama went after people for their taxes and sick the IRS on them. And
we know Nixon did, certainly. But,
yeah.
But this is
Clintons had their own little shit list.
This is quite a nasty bit of information.
I wonder how it's going to be dealt with. I really think it's just going to float down the river.
I would let it. If I were the Democrats, I would let it have its own life, rather than to seem like the people who have initiated it or are then going, aha. I think the best political stance would be, if this is in the hands of prosecutors, let them do their work and keep your nose out of it so you don't turn him into a martyr at the hands of the Democrats.
Well, they should do that, but they forget that you don't throw stones at when you live in a glass house, and I don't think that they can contain themselves to not go after it. They'll go after anything they can.
The only liability they have is that to make him look a bit like a martyr to his people, and you don't want to do that. Yes, Jeff had his hand up.
Well, I think Nixon was much more sophisticated as far as all of these problems than Trump is.
Yeah, he just hired some Cubans to break in.
He showed that he went to.
Well, Nixon was also more consistent in his lying. In other words, here's the problem with Trump. Trump doesn't know what he lied about. When he today said that he never met Whitaker, and then a few weeks and didn't know Whitaker, and then there's a Fox interview with him in which he goes, and this guy Whitaker is really terrific. I know him, and he's a great guy. Well, wait a minute. That's it. No, he didn't say that. He said, "I know him, and he's a great guy." And then today he said, "Whitaker, I don't know him. I've heard
he hadn't met him, but he heard of his reputation.
He's been at the White House over and over and over again.
Yeah, but I mean,
I saw him.
It was a blatant.
It was a
blatant lie. Phil, will you agree with me that Trump is a serial liar?
I don't think he is. I just think his interpretation, in the way of communicating, you just don't get it.
You've lost your moral compass, Phil. You've lost your moral compass.
It's a good thing I got 2 or 3 of them around here.
Let me ask you this, Phil. Let me ask you this, Phil. You had 2 kids.
You should get them working again, then, Phil.
Would you having kids? And I don't have kids, okay, and neither does Rob. Neither does Tony. Neither does Brian. In fact, the only other guy that has kids here is Jeff. But I would ask Jeff this question. Do you really want this man to be a moral example to your children?
You know, our moral examples have changed. No. Hold on, you asked me a question. Let me answer it. You know, if you look at our sports figures today, and you look at the way they act, the way they set a moral compass. I mean, Trump is no different than what the rest of the world.
Phil, you're
is
dealing
doing.
in the ultimate whataboutism.
Yeah, well.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. To begin with, let me say this. I think to say
you're comparing shit to shit.
To say that that sports figures have to be a good example of the youth, I've always found that bullshit. You know, they have their own lives and they they play sports and they do it for the benefit of the audience and that's really all it amounts to. The same thing is true of entertainers. This is a man who is president of the United States, and he has to set a moral tone for the rest of the country.
No, that's your opinion.
No, it's not my opinion. It's the opinion of every it's the opinion of every anthropologist I've ever interviewed, including the guy who wrote The Elephant Man, in which I said, how do we decide what's right and what's wrong in a society and fashion in a society? And he said, well, it used to be on what the king or queen would wear.
Well, when are you going to start wearing a long tie?
Wait a minute. And I said, who do we have today? He says, our president, our politicians who set the moral tone of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're fighting.
That was the case.
You're fighting. You're fighting what anthropologists say. How do you would you want to point to Donald Trump if you had a kid right now and say, you should act like he does?
You should. I would.
Come on, Phil. Answer the question. Answer the question directly. Don't hem and haw around it.
They're not empty vessels that you can just plant information in. They have their own minds, and they're going to act the way they feel is right based on the upbringing that I gave them. If they don't respect Trump, and I don't know if my kids are Republican or Democrat. I haven't had those kinds of conversations with them, but and one of them lives in Canada now and has no desire to come back to the U.S. The idea is, Trump is Trump. I voted for him because he made certain promises, and as far as I'm concerned, he kept those promises. And he has flaws. Human beings have flaws. Nobody's perfect. And I'm willing to accept his imperfections based on the promises he made and the promises he's keeping.
I think it's more about pride at this point with Trump supporters. It's more about they're never going to admit the fact that they made a huge mistake, and it's about pride.
I don't think so because the guy's doing. If you look at half of the nation. They support.
It's not half of the nation. If things turn out, it's not what split hairs. The popular vote. There was a tremendous blue wave, and it's not over yet.
Rob, get it right. Splitting pubic hairs.
If only a broad.
What?
He's breaking up.
Phil's the Senate. The blue wave. I believe there's 30 new members in the House. Right.
There's 30, but there could be 33 before this is over, the way it's looking.
Well, they were talking about 70. That would have been a blue wave.
I never heard 70. Where did you hear 70?
I heard 70.
I never heard that.
I think
all it is blue splash.
What?
Did I?
What?
My screen's been freezing.
Yeah, you're freezing.
No, you're not. He's not frozen now. So
not now, but you've been.
Yeah, because I moved the mouse.
Oh, you must have done something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think that you're skirting around it, Phil, when you say that this is the kind of person you want to have be a moral example to your kids.
Yeah.
I didn't say I wanted to be a moral example of the.
Well, but
so how do you expect our allies to believe what he says? How do you expect anybody to respect this country? Forget about his promises to you. What about what about
Rob? You mean like the UN?
Again, he's
having to
deflecting.
step up. No. You asked me how do I believe that foreign leaders are going to respect?
You know what you're doing,
well,
Phil? You're answering the question with whataboutisms. You're pointing to other people and saying, "Well, what about them?" Well, no, it's not what about them. We're talking about what about Trump.
Doesn't answer the question, Phil. I understand what you're saying. He got them to pay some money.
Another whataboutism. Right. He got them to step up. He got.
But that's not answering the question.
Japan.
That's not answering the question.
Well, he gets respect through strength.
No. You're not answering the question.
Do you
We're
really
not talking about
question?
Do you really think he has respect?
Do you think the world to believe one thing that comes out of the United States when everything he said he's a serial liar? Why would anybody believe anything he says? I'm not asking you about anything else. Okay. How do you have any kind of real public policy? If you had a best friend and that best friend was constantly lying, how could he be your best friend? How would you believe anything he says?
Phil's frozen again.
I'll give you some examples. Let me have to call back.
Yeah.
Let me. I might have to call back. Yeah. But let me see if I can get this across. He said that he was going to eliminate and renegotiate NAFTA. He did.
No, he didn't. He didn't, Phil. No,
you're going to answer the question.
No, I am absolutely because you're wait a minute, because you're giving false information, Phil.
You're not answering.
He did not get rid of NAFTA. The only thing he did to NAFTA was rename it.
I don't care what he did. He renegotiated.
No, he didn't.
Different
he
deals.
didn't renegotiate
I'm
NAFTA.
I'm not
it's the same NAFTA.
With you. I'm going to tell you what the guy did.
It's the same NAFTA, respect. Phil. No, you can't say that because he didn't do it. Oh, good. He's frozen again.
He took a red car and he painted it blue.
If you don't let's try this one. He said, "I am going to eliminate the agreement with Iran." He did. He also said in Syria, if you use chemical weapons, we will.
How does that answer the question?
What do you mean? I'm telling you what the man did.
I don't care
all
what
around the world.
I don't care what the man did.
World. He said, "I'm going to eliminate ISIS in Iraq."
We haven't hate ISIS anymore.
Yeah, we don't have the ISIS threat that we had. We don't have the agreement with Iran. We have a better deal with Mexico.
We don't have any agreement. We don't have any agreement with
So,
Iran. You're absolutely correct, Phil. We don't have any agreement with Iran.
And that's what Trump said he would do.
And the fact is that because we don't have an agreement with Iran, we can't do business with them. We can't talk to them. We can't come up with, the rest of the world is talking to them. The rest of the world is not going against them. So Iran's still doing just fine, and they're living by their nuclear disarmament. And look at it. I love how he's frozen.
To hang out. Phil, you need to reboot or do something because you're freezing up.
Having a hard time hearing. I got to call back.
Yeah.
Let me call back.
Yeah.
He's not answering the question. He just wants to state what he's done. How, if you have a best friend or somebody that you want to be your best friend or think is your best friend, and you find time and time again that best friend is lying, how could you trust that person with anything he says?
You wouldn't want to remain that person's friend.
Right, because you can't trust a damn thing they say. So we've got all these allies around the world. How are they supposed to trust? He landed in France. He already picked a Twitter fight with the president of France.
And Macron, they used to have like a love affair going. They had like a bromance going, and now Macron is just saying "fuck you," We can't put up with this.
Twitter.
You know.
But I have to say one thing in work, they're all panicking now because we just got a delivery from China, Alex, and they did raise the tariff 10%. Now they're saying come January, there's an old man, he handles their accounts for China, Bernard. I'd say he's in his 70s, he goes back and forth to China. And he was talking to me, he says, Tony, I got to tell them, come January, the tariffs are going to go up 20%. He wants to hit them, Trump. So now they're ready to hit the ceiling in my work. If it's true, he's saying they're trying to.
Did they vote for Trump?
Yeah. Bernard said, I would say he's in his mid-70s. Really nice guy. He comes in from the city.
No, but did your bosses at work, did they vote for Trump?
Yeah, good.
Tell them. Tell them.
I told him that. He said, guess who they voted for? Who? Trump. I went third party. And he says, I would have never voted for Trump. He told me, you knew you were going to get.
Shame on them. They grew up in New York with all the Trump bullshit.
And this guy, he's so nice, Bernard. He came because he handles everything overseas for them.
Anybody
why'd you vote for the guy? You knew he was going to get you. He wouldn't say that.
Anybody who grew up in New York and voted for Trump is stupid. And in your case, at your company, they're exceptionally
they deserve
stupid
it. I'm laughing about
because
it,
of the tariffs they're now getting on their hats.
Yeah, you know what? Get this, Alex. One of the hats that come over, right? I'm glad. I hope they hit them hard. I mean it truthfully like that. And I'll tell you why. Because they complain about American goods, right? And I had an argument with my uncle a while back. I said, listen, the reason why you don't buy America is because you do buy America. But when you get 400 boxes in from China and 100 boxes in from Pennsylvania, and you know what the difference is for a Blues Brothers hat made in China? $22 retail per piece. United States, $46.50. And I'm telling you, if I showed you the hat, I wouldn't even sell it to my worst enemy, the China hat. It's a piece of shit, right? Even Bernard said it's garbage.
Is that why you sent me 6 of them?
No, I sent you a good one, actually, because I was made in America. And Alex's Kangol was made overseas. But we'll make a long story short.
England.
Yeah, England. So basically, I'm not saying, yeah, I'm happy. I don't want to see anybody lose business. But if you're going to vote not in your best interest, then he even said that. It's like, I don't know why they did that. Because we were talking on the slide, because I know him for a while. I says, I stay at them because they think they know everything. I says, I could have told them. Now my cousin's like, they may raise it 20% more. I says, yeah, what did you think he was going to do? You knew he was going to do. She's looking like all stupid. Like, Bernard, can we do anything about this? Yeah, you cannot buy from China. Buy more from America.
Couldn't tell them what was a dump
prices. And if they raise their price more in the China item, no one's going to want it because it's going to be too expensive.
I guess the conversation changed, but in my industry, these fuckers, what they're doing is they raise the Chinese stuff because of the tariffs, and then the Americans raised the American stuff proportionately to the Chinese stuff. So there was no offset.
In other words, what you're saying is the American-made products are costing you 25% more now, just 10. Because it's 20 or 10 or whatever the tariff is. Just because China's tariff is that, so they feel they can raise the prices on you.
Yeah, and that's what they did. And you know who the largest supplier I buy from?
Yeah,
is owned by Warren Buffett.
Really?
Yeah, Berkshire Hathaway, and it's my best supplier, my number one supplier, and they have taken advantage of this tariff thing for their own, to line their own pockets, and I am pissed.
You really think so, Phil?
I know so. I just had to print new price tags. You know.
Well, maybe you're right. I don't know you're into the business, but on the one token, what I find funny is by us. I was talking to this guy, the guy who handles that, and from outside the place, I won't talk in front of them. And I heard that a lot of the warehouses up in Pennsylvania, they used to let the small companies, like, say I wanted to order 100 dozen. They used to say, okay, you know what? Give me 25 dozen and keep my other 75 dozen in your warehouse. You know what the guy's telling them now? Oh, since you weren't ordering a lot anymore, they're getting smart now. He says, okay, I'll store your stuff if you don't take it all, but I'm going to charge you per box now because my space is money. So either you take it all, or I'm going to charge you because you're not using me as a warehouse.
I've had deals like that.
Getting them in the meat grinder now, they deserve it, Phil, because you know why? They used them for China for a long time, so it's payback. You want your stuff? I'm not going to store your stuff. Space is money.
It's called locker stock.
You know? I don't like that, though. I would say you got to take it. Because say if you renege on it, you got to, if I'm making it, I want to bill it. I want to ship it out there.
Yeah, I had a big order that I tried to have them keep, and I stalled it for a month, and it showed up 2 days ago.
Yeah. Let's get to another piece of news today as well, and that's the election, or the fact that it's not over with yet.
No.
Yeah, no shit.
Florida and Arizona.
Yeah,
Yep.
and Georgia. The Georgia thing is on the cusp, because if the votes come in and she gets just a few more votes, that takes his percentage under 50%, and if it's under 50%, that's an automatic runoff in Georgia.
Now, was there more than two people running in Georgia to begin with?
Yes, there was a third person. He got 0.7% of the vote.
Now, was this guy taking votes away from her or Kemp? Adams or Kemp?
I really don't know. I'm not that familiar with Georgia politics. I assume, let's assume for a moment that those are her votes, okay? The point is that, and then down in Broward County, I mean, that thing is now up for grabs.
Yep. Those people shouldn't be allowed to vote.
What is going on down there? They fuck everything up.
Well, they just seem to, somehow they can't count.
There are no more Chads.
Somehow everybody else gets 100% of their vote tabulated on the night of the election, but Broward,
Arizona doesn't. They're only like 84%.
I know they're at 84%, and it looks promising that Cinema is going to win that election there. So if the governor of why is it a shame?
Because I think that McSally is such a better person than this person who is basically a anti-American.
Anti-American? How is she anti-American, Phil?
Well, the things that she had said.
Like what? Like what? Quote her for me.
Arizonans a bunch of meth heads. But
no, she didn't. No, she didn't.
Yeah, she made a statement that was similar to the deplorables by Hillary.
Oh, remember that?
Oh, really? Well, why don't you quote it for me by verbatim so that we can hear it, or is it just something you think you heard because it floated up your ass?
I've seen it, but the way I got my bandwidth to improve was I turned off the other computers that were sucking up bandwidth. Does that happen if you have three or four items that are all taking bandwidth, even though they're just sitting there, but they're on? Does that take away from?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what I did. Was I turned those off?
Yeah, because it could be polling something. But anyway. But the point is that we have a couple of races here that could give us a couple of more senators, and the former governor of Florida, what's his name? Scott. He looks like that's gonna at least be I think it's supposed to be a retabulation recount, whereas the gubernatorial may be a machine recount.
Yeah.
And what he's claiming is, it's the liberals trying to steal the election from us.
Yeah,
no, the only thing that's happening is they're trying to tabulate every vote that people made. Okay, that's all.
And what about the boxes of votes that they say they had rat-holed?
What?
They had boxes in Florida. They said that they found boxes of ballots that were hidden in a closet. Now, I think maybe those boxes of ballots.
I didn't hear that.
They showed pictures of it.
And secondly, these are votes people made. They deserve to be.
Maybe.
Do they? No. Stop it. Do they deserve to be tabulated?
If they're legitimate.
Well, let's say they're legitimate.
Well, I can't assume that. Maybe these are the ones that are being held in lieu of felons voting.
Enough already. You're not this stupid, Phil. Come on. You're not this stupid.
I'm not ready to believe
You're not this stupid. You're playing a role for the benefit of this program, and we all know it.
every time Florida has had one of these issues,
Yeah, he's
it's been
right about
Broward County. I can't believe that they have this many issues, and it's always in a very tight election where they come up with this shit.
He might be right about that.
Yes, Jeff, and then Brian.
I've been there many times.
I lived there.
I lived there too.
You hated it, Alex.
A lot of old people there. They've never used a computer. They're calculating these things. Their glasses are having problems.
No.
Basic
mathematics.
And they've got to tabulate the votes before the early bird special is over.
Yeah,
at
let me
Wolfie's.
tell you something. These people in Southern Florida are as sharp as they come. They know what they're doing. I belong to a camera club for a retirement community. Let me tell you something. These guys know the rules inside and out.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Is this camera club you're going to in a retirement community?
I wonder if he's trying to beat them
So
out.
what you're saying is, wait a minute. So you're beating up on these people every week with your photographs. You're beating up on old people.
Yes.
Yeah.
But because I've won so many times, they're going to move me up to intermediate next, or either advanced or intermediate. I don't know what the next.
See, that's like when I went.
Originally,
I went to high school. They thought I was retarded or something, and they put me in the They put me in the retarded classes, and I was getting straight A's. I was just burning up the track, and all of a sudden they realized that I wasn't retarded, and they moved me into the regular classes where I got C's. Well, that's what's going to happen to you, Phil.
You'll probably, although. I'm on the council now. That's why I have to attend those things. I actually have a duty to Wednesdays.
Because you're the only one who has good hearing.
I'm the only one that can stand up for an hour.
Really?
Without a walker.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah.
It's concerning Georgia. Are we ever going to find out who voted for who? In regards to those purged voters, those 340,000 purged voters? Or are we only going to find out if they decide to vote again in the runoff?
That's the problem, is that the guy who's running against her was also the guy that's decided who could vote and who couldn't vote.
Now, there's your conflict.
He just quit that job.
Well, but he quit the job after he did whatever he had to do to win that election.
Yeah, but if there's some sort of recount, he's no longer.
Yeah, but you can't recount votes of people who weren't allowed to vote, Phil.
Right.
I just would still like to know somehow if there's a way we can find out who voted for.
If it goes to a runoff, Brian, if it goes to a runoff, do these people get a chance to vote again?
We would hope so. But, I mean, this guy was sitting there talking about, how corrupt the Democrats are. He was claiming they were going to fix the vote. He fixed the vote. He was the biggest.
You guys have a short memory.
No, what do you mean?
Don't you remember Hillary and the superdelegates?
Here we go. Whataboutism again.
And Brazil
has nothing to do with this. Has nothing to do with this, and I never liked the superdelegates anyway.
It's all what about.
I never liked.
You guys have a short memory.
I never liked the super delegates anyway, and if you remember, I decried them.
Hey, Phil, was Hillary Clinton running in the 2018 election?
Doesn't matter. Yeah, she ran in 2016.
Yeah, she ran in 2016. She did not run in 2018. So we're not talking.
It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is you have a short memory. A short memory, Brian, and you have one of the shortest.
Yeah, sure I do. I remember how she tried to fuck over Bernie Sanders.
That's what I'm saying.
And
so Alex says that the Republicans.
Andrew Gillum. This is about Stacey Abrams. This is about Rick Scott. This is about
no. This is about the Democrats too. That those boxes.
Okay, Phil, hold it down a little bit. What were you going to say, Rob? You were.
I was just lamenting. Oh boy, because you guys beat her. She's gone. She's home. She's a grandmother.
That had nothing to do with the statement, which was you have a short memory. Alex said.
Who's talking about memory? We're talking about what's going on in Georgia.
Yeah, well, Alex said that the
just a week
Republicans.
ago.
I have a very
saying
short
that,
memory, Phil.
that
That's
they're
why I'm
corrupt.
remembering what happened a week ago. You know,
Well, you learn from the past, and that helps you.
and what am I
understand
supposed
how
to
deal with
learn
The
it.
Democrats are not in charge in Georgia. If there's corruption
Hopefully
going
they
on
never
there,
will be.
same thing in Florida.
How can you be
Because
corrupt,
the-
Phil, if you're not in charge?
Yeah,
It's very easy. You hide a bunch of boxes in a closet, and then you pull them out when you need them because the election was close.
Wow.
In Chicago, you come up with dead people. They vote.
There we go.
Gee,
Did
that
you know
happened.
Alex-
That happened with Kennedy. That was a long time ago.
Oh, well, you still have a short memory.
You didn't even graduate high school.
No, I was in first grade, I think.
You know what? It's really funny. Right now, until January, the Republicans control everything, and yet everything is corrupt. Or you guys are the ones to say it's the FBI is corrupt and the deep state. But these
Well,
are
I like the
all
deep state.
these are all people that the Republicans put in charge.
Hey, no, they were left over from Obama, but
Oh,
you know,
geez, oh,
once
Oh,
the
she
Senate
won't-
starts investigating these guys, it's all going to come out. You know, you're sitting there holier than thou right now.
I want to see.
Republicans.
I hope Phil is around when we finally see this guy slapped in chains and walked away to
Yeah.
jail, and how he parses that one.
They will give him a monument because this guy is so good. He's better than Reagan.
Oh my God!
Well,
The cream of the crop.
The cream of the crap.
Thank you.
I don't think he's better than Reagan. But that's a
puts
very
this-
low bar to set, Phil.
Hey,
So now he completely
Throw your back out
doesn't-
mumbling under that motherfucker. That's how
puts
local
a-
works.
he fires his AG, which he put there, and he puts in another guy who he doesn't even forget about chain of command in terms of who's the next one, and then he disavows knowing the guy. And the guy, did you see all the shit that's come up with this guy?
on
They had
Fox?
video of him hawking some hot tub, and the FBI is investigating that company for all kinds of issues.
What hot tub?
Talk about. There was a video I saw of that acting attorney general where he's doing this like sales pitch on this hot tub. He was thrown out of everything. This guy is a fucking loser who has the wackiest viewpoints that are so outside of American norms.
But wait a minute, Trump didn't know him.
Doesn't know him.
Yeah, Trump doesn't know him. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But
you
wait
know,
a minute.
please
Wait a
get
minute. Wait a minute.
better,
But how
well,
come Trump said 2 months ago on Fox that he did know him?
And
he
he's
probably
smart.
meant
He's
that
a
he knew his
brilliant guy. I know.
reputation.
No, he said I know him and he's a
I-
good friend,
Did
something
you-
like
met
that.
him.
He's a great
It's
guy. He's a
recorded.
great guy. Yeah.
I've talked to him.
Yeah. I know him and he's a great guy. That's that's
Okay.
exactly the
Well, I
guy.
guess he is.
He's a fucking liar.
You know, you're caught up in all the little
I'm
minutiae.
caught up in his own words. What minutia? I'm caught up in his own words.
Hey, he says that he knew his reputation.
No. That's not
That's what he
No,
said this morning. He was on his way to
That's
Marine
what he
One.
Yes, he
Yes,
knew of
course
his
that's what he said.
reputation,
But CNN's been playing it back to back, where the interview that he did on Fox News back on October 11th, and what he said today. He's
Isn't it
fucking
interesting? You
lying.
got to know that Trump is in a lot of trouble when Fox and the Wall Street Journal are now doing stuff negatively about him.
Well, Fox is fair and balanced. See?
You're always good for comic relief, Phil.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Ain't that the fucking truth?
Well, I don't know. I've done Fox on a couple of occasions, and I've always been treated very fairly over there. I have to say
Fair.
that.
And
They-
balanced.
They gave you water when you needed it. They didn't call you a commie because you're a leftist. So
Right.
you got treated nicely. But,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean,
Pass
So
back.
Alex kisses their ass just like Trump kisses the leaders' asses that are nice to him.
All I'm saying
See?
is
Same thing.
my experience being over there, being used as a pundit, was always very positive. And I can say that I was able to say what I wanted to say, and I wasn't being besmirched for it. And but you know, I was one of the very rare people that way that they had on. Most of them were right wingers.
I have to say that
In fact, I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story. When I was in the makeup room at Fox, he said, "So what show are you going on?" And I said, "I'm going on such and such a show." And the makeup woman said, "So what do you do?" I said, "I'm a talk show host." She says, "Oh, what's your political inclination?" I said, "I'm a left winger." She says, "Oh, you're in trouble." That's what she said to me.
That was a good setup. Hey, but, you know, I have a feeling that if they had a right-winger that went to CNN or CBS or any of these other, even MSNBC, maybe while they were on the air, there might have been some things. But I would imagine.
By the way, there are Republicans on MSNBC.
Right. I would think that even, you know, the outsiders that they bring in would be treated with respect and as a professional. You know, this is a business, and they're not going to get people
what I'm saying is over at MSNBC, you have I forget what her name is in the afternoon, who worked for Bush too, and she has a show. And Steele, the head of the Republican Party at one time, is a paid contributor at MSNBC. You go over to CNN. I don't watch them, but I hear they have some right wingers over there. This guy Whitaker was on CNN. He was a paid pundit. So. But you don't see that over at Fox. I don't see any. The last one was Alan Combs. That was it.
No, what about that the black guy that's always on the 5? He's the lefty.
Juan. What's his name?
Juan Ramon there.
Juan Ramon.
Anyway, I'm not talking about their regular employees. I'm talking about when they bring in somebody like you, who is who's there to debate, and they treated you nicely. I have a feeling, without any knowledge, I mean, I don't have any personal knowledge of this, but I have a feeling that all the other networks are going to be just as gracious to the people that they bring in. And even with the
all I'm saying
point
is
of view.
Yes, they probably would be, but that's because they're liberal. We're not expecting Fox to be as nice as I found them to be. You know,
well, is there more than one other than there's a couple of small ones like One American Network.
One American Network hardly gets any juice.
Yeah, hardly gets anything.
You've got Newsmax.
Newsmax. And I would imagine that they would just be as courteous as anyone else.
Newsmax won't even have a left winger on.
Well, maybe, yeah.
In fact, if you ever watch the Roger Stone interview, he does an interview over at Newsmax, and then they talk about the people who are doing the documentary on him, and that they're probably left wingers. And the guy who runs Newsmax was saying, "Well, we'll forgive them and whatever." But Newsmax, you will not find one person on Newsmax who's a left winger.
I've never watched Newsmax. I don't think I get it. You know, but who was on that, and what network is that?
Well, it's a news network that tries to compete against Fox by being even more right wing, and they're like. They literally are the company that sucks Trump's dick.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I was just commenting earlier that your claim to fame was that you were treated nicely at Fox, and my thought was that I would have bet, that all of these ones, regardless of their point of view, probably treat anyone that comes to that station.
Well, I will have to say, I used to work at MSNBC. With what's his name was now over at Fox.
Tucker
Carlson. And I used to do a show once a week. And I have to say that while I was treated very well by Tucker, and I was allowed to be as left-wing as I wanted to be, and he had me on with another guy who was a left-winger, and we debated, and it was a lot of fun. What I found was that the professionalism of MSNBC was not as high as the professionalism over at Fox. When I would go over to MSNBC, I was dealing with robot cameras all the time. When I went over to Fox, every camera was manned by a cameraman. Now you don't
I
even
worked there one day.
Huh?
I worked at Fox one day.
So am I right? They were very professional in that respect.
Oh, a very professional organization. Yeah. I have a lot of friends that work at Fox, and I'm so glad that I got out of television, because I probably would have wound up there, and then I would be so conflicted that I'm actually working for an organization like that.
Yeah,
you would have been wearing a Trump hat.
No, I wouldn't have. I would have quit. But I have a lot of friends who work there, and I don't know how you do it.
Hey, folks, we're boring Brian. He just yawned.
Yeah, well, it's late there.
Didn't you fall asleep on Jack's show the other night or something? Did you say? Did I hear that? Oh, I thought I heard that. Or you slept through mine and woke up for his. That was it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. You thought I was pissed off at you because of the Columbus syphilis remark. When I could give a fuck less.
I must not have been there. I've never noticed Brian sleeping.
So what do you think this
I did a while ago, like a year ago.
What do you guys think this Congress is going to do vis-a-vis Trump? I mean, I think they should not do a lot. Well, I think they should do nothing. I think they should
try to pass legislation that's in stark contrast to his own to prove to us that they are who we elected.
Right.
And that's what they should do.
Yeah.
Right.
And then wait, like I said, wait until May or June of 2020 to start the impeachment proceedings, so that the senators can show their hands as an election ploy.
I think we're going to hear some Mueller.
If they're smart, they'll do that.
I think we're going to hear some Mueller results
They're
very
saying
soon.
they're writing the final report now.
Very soon.
And this new guy can decide whether or not it gets presented.
This guy ain't going to last the weekend.
Yeah.
This guy is going to go down in flames.
How would you feel, Phil,
Trump is
if the Mueller
disavowed himself?
If the Mueller probe was ready to be published and it had to be okayed by this guy in order to get out to the public, how would you feel if he didn't let it come out?
No, I actually want it to come out. I want the truth to be told.
Okay.
And what would happen if you were to find out that he colluded with Russia? Let's just say, for argument's sake, I don't think they're going to find that.
I don't think they're going to find that.
But if they do, what would be your reaction?
That's a whataboutism too.
No. That's just a hypothetical question. That's not a whataboutism.
I don't want to go down the path of hypotheticals, but for you, Rob, because I love you, I will. Bottom line is, if he broke the law, then he should be held accountable. I don't believe that he did, but if he broke the law, he should be held accountable.
So regardless of all the good that you think he's done, that would be enough.
Okay. Yeah. Let me say one thing here. I think there's not necessarily the possibility that he will be accused of colluding with the Russians. Okay, they may get him on this thing with Stormy Daniels and with what's her name? The other woman, I forget her name now.
The good looking.
The good looking one. Yeah. They may get him on that. Okay, that's always a possibility. But that's not collusion with Russia. But the collusion with Russia, I think there will be somebody indicted, and I think it's going to be Donald Trump Jr.
I'm not so sure. That meeting, I think they walked out of that meeting, didn't they?
Nope.
Yeah.
By whose account?
I'm not sure. There were several accounts.
So we'll find out, because you're going to hear it from Donald Trump Jr. that they talked about adoption.
Adoption. Yeah.
No, that was the original premise for the meeting, and then when they got into the meeting, it was about something else, and there
are people I think,
split.
and one of them is willing to testify that Donald Trump had information that the Russians had information on Hillary Clinton. And
you mean like the dossier that they did to Trump?
No,
and paid for?
There you go with whataboutism again. We're not talking about that.
No, you can't defend yourself with that whataboutism.
We're not talking
Every
about that.
Every time you get caught with your pants down,
we're not talking about. Well, no, because you're doing what about? Yes, Rob.
So, Phil, if you keep trying that, then we can say, what about the bugging, that he was going to have all the information that Obama bugged him at Trump Tower, right? And what about we don't? He said, "Wait 2 weeks, and I'll have
What
all
about
kinds of
all the
information."
claims he made
did.
that he never went through? What? No, he didn't.
What?
Yeah,
Where's
the FISA warrants that they had that they were wiretapping at Trump Tower and some conversations. It was done. It was done under those phony, trumped-up FISA warrants. That
wasn't Obama doing it.
It wasn't Obama doing it.
Oh, yeah.
No, it wasn't.
No.
It was Obama's administration.
No, what it was is that the FBI was checking in to make sure, basically, that they were okay, that they weren't being bugged and they weren't being compromised. That's what that was all about.
Well, that's what you say.
No,
Trump says
Phil,
they
that's
were
a very
going after
easy
him
way
and his
to get
people.
around
But
this.
he didn't have any proof. He said he had proof. He was going to show proof.
And you're
All he
going
did was
to
make
believe a
statement.
fucking liar, a guy who never tells the truth. Everything coming out of his mouth is a fucking lie, Phil, and you got to admit that.
You're just being played. You're being played by the Russians, and all of those bots and all that Facebook stuff of Trump's a liar, Trump's this, Trump's that. It's the Russians, and you guys are being played by them.
No, I see.
Being played by his words, the things that he says.
Some of them haven't even come from him. They came from the Russians or some 400-pound guy in New Jersey.
Yeah,
Tony's going to explode.
Yeah, but that 400-pound guy was Chris Christie.
I got to go upstairs and check on this. I got to cut out.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for the warning.
I know. I hope it's not going to be too bad when I go.
We're going to miss you too, Tony.
Yeah.
I know.
Don't turn your camera off. Just let it be an empty chair.
Just leave the empty chair there, and maybe you might want to come back.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how long I'm going to be, so I think I have to just give her pill and just put her socks on and put the waterfall on the radio.
Just get the shovel, clean out the diaper, and come on back.
You got stairs. Just do a Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Push her down.
I know.
She rolls down the stairs. She takes some pictures.
Yeah. I went to the bank before. She's paging me. When you coming home? I'm online in the freaking bank, man. I got to cash a check.
Crack a rib, save a diaper.
I'll talk to you Tuesday, Alex.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Tony is if anybody else wants to call, you're welcome to.
Oh, I was going to make a suggestion. You said that you had some open seats for Thanksgiving. Yeah, I don't know that Tony's got anything to do for Thanksgiving. And I think he likes turkey.
Shut up. The last time I gave into that was when Albert said, "Why don't you come to Alex's party?" Okay. Yeah. And that's how I met Tony for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you had that Great America set, you said that Tony spent 2 weeks there building the new set, which was a green screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody thought that was a real set.
I thought it was. It looked great.
It looked great.
It was like, how can you afford that, Alex? Well, it's just you punch button 1 and feed it into button 2, and there you go.
The funny thing is that exact same set, I've seen it on other news shows that are national news shows.
Yes.
Are they using a green screen?
Yeah.
If you saw the exact set.
Yeah.
Exact same
The
set.
only thing was that I wish I had some money, because I would have paid to buy an upgrade to that where we could actually put our own backgrounds in there for New York and so on.
Well, you can with OBS, I understand.
Well, I mean, OBS, no, you can't do that kind of virtual set.
You can put
OBS.
a picture.
You can put a picture, but this wasn't just a picture, Phil.
Yeah.
This was an overlay and a box that had me in it.
Right.
That whole thing was, and then you could also have a different angle, and you just punch up the different angle, and you get me with the different angle of the same set. So,
yeah, and you had the TVs there with stuff in it.
Yeah,
it was great.
Oh yeah, it was terrific. So anyway, I mean, we've had a lot of desperate news. But the other, of course, piece of news was that shooting in Southern California in Thousand Oaks, which I brought it up last night, and I'll say it again. I mean, at what point do we just say enough is enough?
Do you know what they're talking about?
What do you mean by that? Enough is enough. There's nothing you could do about it.
Well, you know what they're talking about is that this is a mental health issue. And I was watching a program tonight, CBSN, where they had some mental health people on, and they said that maybe you got to bring back the asylums that we had in the 60s and 70s, so that you could get. They said that 1 in 5 people in America has a mental health issue. Now that doesn't, bipolar or schizophrenic. So if 20% of the population has some sort of mental health issue, we need a way of dealing with them.
Phil.
And they're not talking about prison asylums. They're talking about ways of giving them a safe place, getting them off the street.
But how do you do that? How do you find them? These people are coming from the middle of nowhere. People, they don't have any prior history of anything.
Also, you don't want to take an action. Hold on a second. You don't want to take an action that is going to drive them into the shadows for fear that they would go to an asylum or something like that. You want them to be able to feel they can come forward and say, I have a problem and I need to be helped. That's what you need.
But what these people said is that a lot of them are already in prison or in living on the street and other things that are due to their issues.
How would you have found this guy? He wasn't living on the street.
No, but he had a roommate that realized that the guy was off, and he didn't say anything. I think I don't believe in reporting people like the Jews are in the attic. But
how do you know? I mean, you find a guy. I'll get to you in a second, Brian. You find a guy who's crazy and nuts, and whatever you think is nuts. But do you exactly turn him in? I mean, what is your basis for turning him in? That he doesn't act normal?
Well, it's there are plenty of people that could be in the position to identify. There's the schools. There's there was the army.
Phil, what you're doing is you're deflecting the problem here. The problem in a lot of cases, anybody who shoots anybody else has a mental problem.
Well, how did
wait a minute? Hold on a second. But your little insane asylum idea wouldn't have stopped this. It wouldn't have stopped what went on in Vegas. It wouldn't stop what went on in Rhode Island.
You're not gonna stop it by taking the guns away from
yes, you are.
law-abiding
yes,
citizens.
you are.
You're gonna
yes, you
because
are.
Then the only
yes,
people
you
that
are.
have them
Yes,
crazies.
you are. Yes, you are. Let me go to Brian first because he had his hand up, and then we'll go to Rob. Yes, Brian.
I'll just make this real quick. I do think that some form of humane and
safe,
attractive form of reinstitutionalization should be implemented, as Alex was saying.
But what is the criteria for doing that?
I don't know.
I don't know exactly. You don't know exactly, Alex, but you had the right words. Make it so that they feel comfortable coming forward, saying, I need help and assisted living, so on and so forth. The other thing I wanted to remark is, Phil, you said that it may be a mental health issue. I want you to mark those words that came out of your mouth. If we ever have another mass shooting incident or domestic form of terrorism incident in which the perpetrator is either African American or Muslim American, don't tell me, they're on a jihad, blah, 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 blah. Well, a lot of these white guys that do this shit are on their own form of Christian.
But you see,
Rob has his hand up.
I believe
Rob has his hand up.
Drugs.
Rob has his hand up.
I want to illustrate a point that what you're saying ideally would be a good idea, but you're never going to be able to do anything about it. Like for example, this last guy, right? His roommate
tax the rich too to do it.
His roommate. You said his roommate could have turned him in, right?
Right.
So I might have told this story before, but back in the day when I was in radio, I befriended a young girl who used to call me all the time. She followed me from radio station to radio station. I was living in Florida, Central Florida, and she was Vietnamese. She was brought over by her sister who had to adopt her, and she married a GI. And they were stationed at Patrick Air Force Base in Satellite Beach, Florida. And she used to call me all the time, and she was always happy-go-lucky. And then she started calling me, and she started crying, and she started telling me all these stories about how her stepfather, who was really her brother-in-law, wants her. And I'm like, what do you mean he wants you? He wants me. He wants me. He said, if he can't have me, nobody's going to have me. He's threatening to kill me. He's threatening to kill me. And I kept saying, look, he's saying that's like an American kind of thing. I'm going to kill you. Doesn't mean he's really going to kill you. He killed her. And I could have turned him in, but you know what I'm saying? You are never going to, that's never going to work, because nobody ever thinks that their roommate is going to go out and wipe out a whole bunch of people. And I'd never thought in a million years.
Everybody always says the guy was such a quiet guy.
So then you're going to have everybody turning everybody in. And you're going to have a whole bunch of people in these asylums who maybe wouldn't do anything. There's no way to do what you're saying.
Phil, what I want to know, I want to ask you a question, Phil. Sure. And this is a straightforward question. Why do you love guns more than you love people?
I don't love guns more than I love people.
Well, then
but I love guns because I do love people.
No, you love guns, Phil. You love guns.
It's a Second Amendment right.
It is a hard piece of steel, Phil. It has no emotion. It has no warmth.
I like the ability to shoot the target and get it right in the center.
But go buy a fucking video game.
I don't like video games. They hurt your thumbs. But I wanted to ask you a serious question, Alex. Back in the 60s and early 70s, when with Reagan in California, we had asylums. How did they decide who went into those asylums back then? The ones that they let everybody out onto the street. And then we had mass murders, and we had the zebra killer at the same time, and we had all these other things happen right around the same time.
Well, I don't know. Emptying out of the asylums in California, which was a terrible, terrible thing, because it took people who were being cared for and threw them out on the street, did not really cause things like the Zodiac killer and things like that. What it did do was cause a social issue of people wandering the streets aimlessly without work and being.
Why was it done?
Huh?
Why was it?
Because
I think it was a constitutional thing that we didn't have the right to.
It wasn't constitutional. Reagan wanted to throw them out of the mental hospitals.
No, but ask yourself.
You didn't want to pay for it.
Probably, but just ask yourself, do these people, did we have the right to do this? But even if we didn't.
Your boy Reagan did it.
All right, but how did they identify the people that ended up in these institutions that prior to letting them out, we had asylums?
Well, that's a very good question. But the point is that...
Well, that would answer your question.
I would say there were a lot of people in asylums who were there because family members didn't like them. Any number of reasons where these people shouldn't have even been in an asylum. But then there were a lot of people in those asylums who weren't able to take care of themselves, and now all of a sudden here they were out on the streets. Also, after a while, you had the returning Vietnam vets who had nowhere to go for help, and they turned into, a lot of them, street people and so on. And that's why California had a big street person problem for the longest time.
Yeah, the guy who shot up the disco, not the disco, the bar in Torrance, in Southern California, Thousand Oaks. He was the police were called out to his apartment or house, and a social worker was going to, at the time they were considering giving him the 5150 Welfare and Institutions Code 72-hour hold, but for one reason or another, the social worker said it wasn't necessary, and here it is. I don't know what the time span was between that and him.
Well, sometimes sometimes. Wait.
We got
slapback
from
Jack. Hold on a second. Hello, Jack. You there?
Hey.
Yeah, right here. It's not me.
Okay, we don't have video on you, by the way.
Oh,
yeah, but the slapback was you, but I don't know why. It's not necessarily your fault.
Yeah, it just happens.
Yeah. The problem is that you have some of the time you can say, oh, this guy should have been on a medical hold or whatever. In other cases, you don't even know the guy exists. I mean, it takes weeks before we find out who these people were and why they were there. And I mean, we still don't know what the complete motivation was of the guy in Vegas. As an
there was some sort of contact. There was even that guy in Florida that shot 49 people in that club, in the gay discotheque. I think it was in Orlando.
Pulse, yeah, the Pulse.
Club. Yeah.
Boy, look at Jack. Jack can't hold a picture.
Yeah,
that's because his hair is getting long.
Yeah,
he's turning into a hippie.
Just the other day, but I'm working on it.
Is that a fro?
No, that's called going bald.
It's longer than I've seen in a while.
It's not a fro, it's a froze.
Yeah,
fruz.
Well, I heard you guys asking the question: how did people get committed to hospitals?
How did it work before?
Well, I am lucky enough that my best friend in this area that I live in is a internationally recognized psychotherapist and psychologist who worked at a number of hospitals. And we talked about this last year on the intersection. And because of the stupidity that we have in this country of not having any uniform laws from state to state, it does vary. But the people in the profession set up their own ethical guidelines. And what had to happen? If you were considered by family members to be of a threat to yourself or others, you could not just be committed. The person had to undergo examination.
The 72-hour hold. The 72-hour hold, the 5150.
72-hour hold in some states. In other states,
California.
Longer.
Yeah.
I think it's 72 hours here in Texas, but in other states it is longer. Then a board of psychotherapists, or psychiatrists, or psychologists would review the situation, send the case to a court. And a judge would rule on it in most states.
Okay. Yes. Yes, Rob.
Was the practice ended because sort of it coincided with healthcare costs skyrocketing and it just became too expensive? Is that why asylums and all that went away and they just released all these people?
Well, it had a lot to do with that, and also with the fact that, once again, because we are not like most civilized countries, having a national health care system that doesn't bankrupt you, the insurance companies pushed for that.
Right.
And as we all know, those that give to politicians usually have great sway with politicians.
Well, I donated to Amy and she lost.
Well, Amy was going to lose because of the county that we live in.
You donated to Amy?
Yeah.
Just as a friend, you did that.
How much did you donate? How much did you donate?
No, yeah, I donated to Amy.
How much did you donate?
Yeah.
We went out to dinner and I gave her the cash I had in my pocket, which was about $60.
Piker.
Yeah. But hey, it was it's something. I mean,
she's a Democrat. It takes a lot more money than that to buy people off.
Right, Alex.
They don't buy them off. They just print their own ballots.
It costs more money than that to fix an election.
Print your own ballots and shove them in a closet.
Yeah. Well, one of these days we'll get smart and we'll say that probably anything above the county level should be publicly financed.
But
so we the people can buy our politicians and know they'll stay bought.
Jack, you lived in California. Did you live in California at the time that Reagan eliminated the asylums and let the people onto the street? I know I did, but I wasn't politically aware enough to know why.
I don't think you were, Phil.
Living in America when that happened, I left California, thank God, just as Reagan was entering office. But I then moved to Texas, and then from Texas to other southern states where the idea of mental health care was practically non-existent.
Kind of the way it is today, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, to simply, you can't, all these shootings we've had, there have been 320 deaths.
307 shootings this year.
307 shootings, mass shootings of four or more. Of 4 people or more.
4 or more. Right.
That's crazy.
Now, I mean, I even
almost one a day. It's been 320 days. Day 322.
So I think we need to start asking the question, and that would include limiting guns and so on, or limiting the way in which people have access to guns. Of how we stop this. This is obviously a very big problem we've got here.
To put it this way, and I have personal experience with this, in that my youngest nephew, there in San Francisco, died in one of those kinds of incidents when he was 22 years old.
Wow.
It only took Great Britain one mass shooting to do something about it.
Now, wait a minute. Now, when you say 307 since the first of the year, why don't I seem to have heard of all of those, or were they like 4 or more, and they just didn't get reported with the same ferocity that these larger ones?
It's probably the way it is.
Yeah, they don't get reported anymore. I mean, it's becoming, if they're happening almost one a day, it's really sort of just American,
how many?
It's like a house fire.
Well, I'll tell you what. I noticed. What I noticed was usually when these murders have happened like this was 12 people, right? Plus, I think was it 13 with
plus
the guy? Plus the guy. Usually when you have something that big, these news people go on all hour with that story, and they have somebody there, and blah 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 blah. Here, they covered it for 15 minutes, and then they went on to other stuff.
Oh, no. It's been news
no.
The fires?
No, but 15 minutes, and then they went on to other stuff. I counted it.
In California, on the local news, it's all they talked about until these fires.
That's in California. That's in California. I'm talking about the national news. It's like we're suddenly becoming numb to this. It's not as big a story, even if it is 12 people.
Part of the fabric.
I don't know what the percentage is, but there's 300 million people in this country, and there's been 325 million. So what's the percentage of having one shooting? One of these occurrences a day, based on the population
one of these a day is too much.
Wow.
Okay, especially when you look at a country like Canada.
I'm not saying it's acceptable.
When you look at Canada, that has a per capita rate of gun ownership that exceeds the United States, and they had maybe, 25, 30 murders last year. Okay?
What does that tell you? What does that tell you? That
too damn cold
Americans,
over
there. They're giving us too many Xanaxes, I think that it's these drugs that they're giving people for their mental disorders that are creating
Jack.
suicidal
Jack,
issues.
Please shut Phil up. Jack, say something.
Hey, look, a friend of mine has an import-export business, and he goes to Europe 4 or 5 times a year. He just got back, and he said, you know what the French call mass shootings? Going Texas.
I've heard that expression before.
Now,
used to be going postal.
Used to be going postal.
Now, here's our real problem, and Phil knows this. Most of the shootings, most of the murders in this country are not from strangers.
Right.
It's from
domestic issues.
Yeah.
Yep.
And sometimes they are multiple homicides.
Oh, Phil,
whole families.
Jack, do you remember when we were working in Houston? Friday, Saturday nights would come. Murder rate went crazy on those weekends, and they never got reported because it was considered par for the course, because people had the ability to have handguns holstered on their side.
Still do.
Still do, yeah.
Alex, I will never forget this, the longest day I live. It was in November of 1967. You had already left Houston, I believe. And I was leaving. And Richard Dobbins, remember Richard Dobbins?
Yeah, he's our newsman, yeah.
Yeah. Richard Dobbins was doing the news as I was driving out of town. And I heard him say, something, November 1967, 270 murders in the holiday rush hasn't even started yet.
Yeah.
And that's when I really became aware of this problem. And, you know, you and I have lived in some pretty big towns, and we've lived in some towns that were pretty tough towns. Houston was the only town that genuinely scared me.
Maybe we have to realize that Americans are violent people, and the price of freedom, the way we have it, is what it is.
But can you imagine? Can you imagine? You know, none of us can imagine this, but imagine being a kid, growing up today, and knowing the very place that you go every day is a place where you could get murdered.
That's the reality.
That's the new norm.
Not only that, you could.
That's seventh period.
Yeah.
Seventh period at school.
Before 2001, nobody ever thought that a bomb or that a plane would fly into a building and people who were just on their way to work would be decimated like that. So, you know, this is the world we live in, and this is the price of freedom in a democracy like this. Maybe
you remember Jim Jones, another San Franciscan?
Sure.
Goes down to Guyana. How many people died that day? 900?
That was a different situation, though.
Yeah, they gave him Kool-Aid with cyanide.
That was a mass suicide. It was, and I would say it was, in my book, it was murder, but it was murder of an entirely different stripe. Okay.
I kind of think that.
Hey, by the way, we're losing Jeff. He's getting drowsy.
You're right there, Rob.
Wait a minute. Look, we
were actually in that situation, including one reporter from the ABC affiliate here in Dallas who was down there covering
and a congressman too.
Yeah, and
Leo Ryan.
Look, guys, here's the thing.
Yeah.
And I used to rail against some things.
Yeah.
Until I read a very thoughtful article on the Second Amendment. And as the Second Amendment is currently written, and underline the word currently, there's nothing that we can do until we get really serious and say, hey, who are you afraid of, and why do you need 15 handguns? I haven't shot a gun since I had to qualify with a handgun going into the Coast Guard reserves.
Wow. Anyway, hey, listen.
One of my uncles came to Dallas to help me get through that. And as we were going to the service, he said to me, hey, you got your handgun? I said, are you out of your damn mind? I never owned a handgun.
Yeah.
Hey, what is this network only employ veterans?
Anyway, hey, you gotta go do a show.
Yeah.
So bye. There goes Jack, ladies and gentlemen. We remove him from the group.
Well, I'm going to spend the day tomorrow with John Peroulis and Ray Renati.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have fun doing that. Wait a minute, I'm trying to change pictures here. There we go. Okay.
We're going to an MMA match, and we're all going to shoot pictures.
Good for you. Have fun. Anyway, everybody, wave goodbye, would you please? Let me thank everybody who's been here tonight. Rob and Jeff and Phil and Brian and Jack and we have
Tony.
And Tony. Yeah, and Tony. Wave goodbye, everybody. Okay, bye-bye. There they go. There they go. Good night. That's the way. That's the way we float our boat around here. Hold on a second. Let me just get rid of my Skype so that the next program can use it. I will have relinquished the Skype, and I'm relinquishing the program until next Tuesday night, right after Damian Chaplin does the exchange. We'll be on at 10 o'clock. And right now, it's Jack Bishop and the Intersection, followed immediately at 1 o'clock in the morning by Connections. Damian Chaplin, 9:30 on Tuesday, and then I'll be here at 10 o'clock on Tuesday to do another program. In the meantime, I'll be here same time, same station in life. In the meantime, if you see her, I'm having a hard time ending the show. Tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye.